Oh, the show tonight is gonna be awesome.
Saturday night in New Orleans.
Tonight I will be hosting the show. I do enjoy it.
At 10 p.m., Rikki Hill makes her usual appearance.
Now, how y'all doing? Hello, friends, fags, lesbians, bisexuals, heterosexuals. Did I leave anybody out? Queers.
But back in the summer of 2005, none of the gay or transgender people here had any idea of what they were in for. On August 29th, just 2 days after her show, the most catastrophic natural disaster in U.S. history will be here. And it will be even more of a disaster for LGBT people like Rikki.
They looked at us like we were like some sort of diseased people or something.
A lot of religious shelters won't allow trans folks to stay there.
So basically they arrested you
For showering in the women's restroom.
for showering in the women's restroom?
Yeah.
Rikki is transgender. When Katrina hit, she was terrified if people found out, they'd kill her. So to survive, she became someone she wasn't, something she hoped she'll never do again. Dress like a man.
I hid my implants. I covered my hair at that time. I didn't wear any makeup. I didn't have fingernails.
And Rikki's not alone. Today, there are over 20,000 transgender people in Louisiana. Back in 2005, they had to survive the most destructive natural disaster in the country and any transphobia it may have stirred up.
But I can tell you that our denomination, we don't teach hatred, we teach love.
I could have been killed. You know, I could have been killed and left there for dead and nobody would have cared. Nobody would have found me.
Since as far back as the 1930s, New Orleans has been home to drag shows and transgender bars. That kind of openness and acceptance was something Rikki Hill could only dream of as a kid. She was raised as a boy who knew she was different. Back in the 70s in the Midwest, that meant fear, shame, and secrets.
That picture is in Decatur, Illinois, where I went to high school.
And in high school, Rikki's greatest fear got out. Someone discovered her secret.
I went into my mom's closet. She wore wigs, I put on her wig. My mom wore high heels, I had them on. And I was playing around in it, and I didn't realize that my cousin, an older cousin, was in the area, and he saw me, and he started running towards the house. He saw me in the window. And he starts running towards my house, so I hurried and took off the clothes, and I literally ran and hid from him. And I locked my door so he couldn't get in. He started screaming at me, "If I ever catch you dressed like that again, I'm gonna kick your butt. Don't ever let me see that again." I'm from a small town in Illinois. When I left it, it was population, 90,000 or something? And they were totally not accepting. It made me feel as though I was doing something wrong. I had to hide, you know, which is what most of us do, we hide. If you have to live your life being something that you're not, or being somebody that you're not, it's gonna make you feel miserable.
By age 25, Rikki had enough. She moved to New Orleans.
My whole life is here. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. You know, I absolutely love New Orleans. And it took me a little while to get there, like when I first moved here. New Orleans is where we have bars dedicated to people who are just transgender. And you go in these bars, they tell you where to go get the hormones, they tell you where to go get the silicone shots and the boobs done, and you know, they tell you where to go to have these surgeries. How you doing?
After transitioning to female, Rikki found work. By day, she cooked at a local diner, and at night, she did drag shows. Rikki even met Mark, and they moved in together, and life was pretty good until August 28th, 2005, the day Hurricane Katrina headed straight for New Orleans.
The mayor called for a mandatory evacuation like at noon. I think it was noon or 1 o'clock is when we got the message. So we shut down the store at 2 p.m. and then put everything away in the walk-in freezers that are back here. And we thought we'd be back up in 3 days.
What Rikki didn't know was Katrina was growing. The Category 3 hurricane would hit New Orleans with winds of over 200 kilometers per hour. It all started that night when the power went out.
If you have ever been in a situation where you have like your air conditioning on, your heat on, your television, you literally hear it when it all shuts down. It's like a like a and then it just goes pitch dark. I mean, pitch dark.
But losing power was the least of Rikki's problems. The next morning, Katrina destroyed the city's levee system, causing massive flooding. Rikki showed producer Kevin O'Keefe how far the water came.
The water level at that time was like right about here, right up to the sidewalk. And it did not stop. It did not stop. So it came from the sidewalk, and then it came up to here, then it came up to here. So you can see how tall this is. And then it came right up to the door there.
In total, 80% of New Orleans flooded, causing over $100 billion in damage. More than 1 million were left homeless, and over 1,800 people died.
I says, Mark, this water is not stopping. I said, if it doesn't stop, it's gonna be inside the building. It's gonna be inside.
Lucky for Rikki and her boyfriend, the water stopped. Their house was on higher ground, but she had almost no food, water, or money.
I had a battery-powered radio. And so on the radio, we heard the officials. They were telling us, oh, these people are probably gonna be without power, without resources for at least a month. Yeah, so, or maybe more, he said. And so Mark and I looked over at Mark and I said, Mark, we've gotta go and get, food. So we were walking through the parking lot. The closer we got to the store, we started to realize these people are looting. I mean, we saw people running out of there with bags of groceries, with whatever. We got closer and closer, and we went inside. There was no lights, completely dark, glass on the floor, broken glass. You had to wade in water with flashlights. It was very, very dangerous.
New Orleans quickly dissolved into chaos.
I feel that it was very dangerous simply because just like they were being attacked for their guns and being attacked for money, being attacked just because simply they didn't like the color of your skin or the fact that I'm transgender.
So Rikki decided to hide that she was transgender. When she went out in public, she dressed like a man.
From my perspective, it was about survival. It was about, I need to be a chameleon, I need to change my stripes. It was about if I need to put on a scarf to go and loot in the grocery store so no one would harass me, then that's what I'm gonna have to do. And that's what I did. If I have to put on baggy clothes to hide the fact that, I have implants, then that's what I had to do. If I take off makeup and whatever, not to be harassed and basically not talk to anyone, that's what I had to do. I thought that I could have been killed and left for dead because who was gonna do anything?
When we come back, Rikki finds shelter at a church, but doesn't find the people there very Christian.
They looked at us like we were like some sort of diseased people or something.
Transgender woman Rikki Hill was stranded in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. She survived by looting for food and water, but she did it dressed like a man because she was afraid people would find out she was a transgender woman.
It's very surreal being back here, very surreal.
After 2 weeks, the National Guard rescued her from her home. She was bused to this Baptist church about an hour outside of New Orleans.
I was terrified. I mean, I was terrified because, like I said, these are Baptists, and they're everything. They're against everything that I'm for. They preach that the way I live my life is an absolute sin, and that we're sick, and that we need to be prayed for, and all those things. They looked at us like we were like some sort of diseased people or something. At some point, some ladies would go to address me, and they would say, yeah, thank you, ma'am, ham hurts, sir. And, they would get tongue twisted because they really didn't know what to call me. It was like going back to school, back to high school. It took me right back to that uncomfortableness. I really kept quiet. I really didn't talk that much, and I just went along with the program, as it were, because I just wanted to get out of here.
The Ritchies are hoping that Texas lawmakers...
Did I tell you that Aaron actually runs the...
Transgender activist Lou Weaver is worried about how trans people were treated in religious shelters after Hurricane Katrina.
A lot of religious shelters won't allow trans folks to stay there. So they say, well, gee, that's nice, but your ID says something else, or your genitals don't line up, and so you're not welcome here. Or you say you're a woman, but you're really not, so you can go sleep with the men. And most often, trans women will not subject themselves to that type of discrimination. And so they would rather be outside, out on the streets, or wherever their community is, that they can find community, whether it's couch surfing or other types of things. So it really becomes detrimental to their health, to their well-being, their emotional well-being as well, because they cannot find a place to stay.
Good afternoon. I commend you for your commitment to be here and for your willingness to serve and to make a difference.
Gibby McMillan is the head of Southern Baptist Disaster Relief for Louisiana.
And as they look at it, perhaps some of them think they have no hope.
In fact, his organization is the third largest disaster relief organization in the country.
What about a gay person or a trans person who would say, that your church says that homosexual behavior is sinful, so they would be afraid to go to you for help?
Well, they might be afraid of what they've heard, and what they're saying is true of what we believe. But God hates sin, but He doesn't hate the sinner. And we're never told in the Bible to discriminate or hurt someone because of different orientation or beliefs. It says we are to rebuke the devil, it says very plainly, and the Bible's very clear about what it takes to go to heaven.
Now, I did talk to a transgender woman who said that she went to a shelter run by a Baptist church and she didn't feel that she was treated very well. Mm-hmm. So how would you respond to that?
Well, I can't answer for what others do, but I can tell you that our denomination, we don't teach hatred, we teach love. And we try to help everyone that's hurting. We do that by feeding them. We're supposed to feed the hungry. We're supposed to give water to the thirsty. And we're supposed to be salt and light, what the Bible says. The people in darkness, show them the light.
Rikki stayed at the church for 3 days. After she left, she wrote them a thank you letter.
To show them, that I am much bigger than maybe what they thought. I am going to show them that I'm not what they thought I was, actually. So I wrote them a letter thanking them for their hospitality, because, hey, at least it was shelter.
But evangelical pastor John Hagee was anything but hospitable to LGBT people after Katrina. In fact, he blamed the gay community for the hurricane on National Public Radio.
You think that the whole city was punished because of things like the forthcoming Gay Pride Parade?
This is true. All of the city was punished because of the sin that happened there in that city.
Pastor Hagee later retracted his statement. Fortunately for Rikki, she has supportive friends and family. After she left the church, she stayed with her brother Jim in Decatur, Illinois.
Did you think maybe she could have not made it?
we really thought that. I mean, we thought that because you were seeing on the news, like all the bodies in the water and a lot of homes in the area that Rikki lived in underwater. So we had no idea. I mean, it was the longest week in history. I mean, it was long. It was a long week of worrying and stress, yes.
Good morning.
And one of the first things Rikki did when she got to safety?
Got my hair did. I went and got my weave done. And it was similar to what I have going on right here, except that it was, had blonde streaks. And once I got my hair done, my nails, and the makeup and everything, it was comforting, actually. It was like, welcome back to self.
And Rikki's not alone. Makeup companies recognize the importance of transgender women presenting female, so they donated $21,000 of product to trans women who survived Katrina. When we come back, one transgender woman's Katrina nightmare.
So basically they arrested you
For showering in the women's restroom.
for showering in the women's restroom?
Yeah.
Well, where else were you gonna shower?
Rikki Hill survived the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina dressing like a man. She was afraid people would find out she was a transgender woman. She's happy she made it, but hopes she'll never have to hide who she is again.
Here she comes.
But being a transgender woman during a natural disaster is easier said than done. Today, Rikki and her friend Joanne Guidus meet Charlie Dominique, the shelter where she was sent to in Texas, arrested her for using the women's shower.
Basically, I was like 19 years old. I had been out of high school for about a year. I was working as a teacher, and Katrina came and I just had started dressing up, basically trying to start my transitioning. Katrina came.
So you were taking hormones?
No, I never took a hormone.
Oh, you never started taking hormones?
No, I take them now.
You take them now?
Yeah, I take them now. But I mean, like for Katrina, I had never took a hormone or anything. I had just started, like, dressing up and living my life day by day as a woman. So after we evacuated, we caught the bus and went to College Station, Texas. And like my first day there, we took a shower and they arrested me for, it was criminal trespassing. And I was like, how could I be criminal trespassing if I'm in a shelter? Mind you, I'd never been in jail before. It was my first time ever going in jail. When I went to jail, I was there for 6 days.
So basically they arrested you
for showering in the women's restroom.
For showering in the women's restroom?
Yeah.
Well, where else were you gonna shower?
I mean, I think that's why I wanted to do this. I'm a Texan. I have the same strong Texas values as everybody else around me.
And Lou Weaver is worried things are about to get even worse for transgender women in Texas. 250,000 people from Louisiana were sheltered in his state after Hurricane Katrina. Some were trans women, like Rikki. Now the government hopes to pass a new law. It would make it illegal for Rikki or any trans woman to use a female public space, like washrooms or showers.
What's the reality of this kind of legislation moving forward?
Unfortunately, here in Texas, it's pretty high. Yeah, I live in a state where our elected officials are gung-ho on making sure that LGBTQ folks, gay, transgender, queer folks, are told that they're different.
for Texas, we had this
Texas lawyer and member of the state government, Briscoe Cain, helped defeat a bill to protect LGBT rights in Houston. And he hopes the new law will toughen legislation statewide.
Now, there are people who I'm sure you've heard this before will say, well, that's not fair, that, you know, if we identify as this gender, we should be able to use that washroom. How would you respond to that criticism?
You know, life's not fair, but I do think that you should have to use the bathroom that identifies with your birth gender.
Like, I guess this is a solution to what? I just don't understand.
Yeah, it has been small in number. We have at least seen one instance in Texas alone where a man went into a woman's bathroom at a Target. You know, Target's been pretty heavy on this. And of course, criminal laws already penalize these things, we understand. But there's one thing in already having a criminal law penalizing it and a law then legalizing the activity.
So wouldn't that person be, couldn't that person still be charged for assaulting a woman or a female in a washroom?
Yeah, absolutely, but why create the opportunity for it to happen?
Please tip the entertainers. But when you go to tip the entertainers, do like this and get out the way. Because we don't want you to catch a black eye when they do like this.
Another Saturday night in New Orleans, 10 p.m., and Rikki Hill is doing her weekly show. Back in 2005, Hurricane Katrina destroyed her city. And according to scientists, every 20 to 30 years, New Orleans gets a Category 3 or higher. That means there's another one just around the corner. The last time Hurricane Katrina destroyed her city, Rikki dressed like a man to survive. But what about the next one? Have things improved since Katrina? Not according to recent US studies. 41% of transgender people have attempted suicide. That number jumps to 54% for trans people of color, and over half, 51%, report suffering from depression. So what if Rikki ends up at a Baptist church, or gets arrested, or sent to Texas?
So, but if I'm in an environment such as Texas, or in a shelter in Texas, where it's supposed to protect me, where I'm supposed to be protected, where I'm supposed to be safe, without being attacked or discriminated against simply because of what I'm wearing, simply because I have breast implants, simply because I'm transgender. Truthfully, I would welcome them to start some shit with me. I would welcome it, because we're gonna be on the Channel 6 News, because I'm not gonna sit still for it. You're not gonna violate, me as a person. You're not gonna attack me as a person for living my truth. I pay my taxes. I'm not a criminal. I work very hard. I pay for everything that I get on this planet, just like everybody else does. If I have to do it over again, I'm not gonna hide who I am. Because I'm older and wiser. And the thing of it is, as being an adult, when you make mistakes, you learn from them. And you grow. And I've grown since then.